Yeah, hi, my name's Julius, and I've got probably 3 or 4 different businesses. One of them's a musical. I'll talk a bit about that, which is centered around, it's called Costume for the Musical. I want to turn the written down of that statue into a musical. And that's kind of what I am. I think I'm an ideas person. I usually send my ideas off to ITV, Channel 4, I've had meetings with, and IT and BBC. And they say they don't rip ideas off, but you know Brian Bello, you know The Only Way is Ethics? Yeah, the black man that wrote that. They offered him £2,500, they had to take him to court. And when the judge watched the video, it's all the same people. So I don't know what, these people. And The Matrix, one of my favourite films, apparently was written by, this is written by a black woman. She's got nothing. So, so I'm fed up of that. So, come back to my people. I want to set up a business, and yeah. Sorry? Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, anyone and everyone. Yeah. Oh, I've also got a board game. And my stuff is very inclusive. I'm doing I was running a night where it was me, comedians versus rappers, and it was all about the punchlines. It was funny, and I could have made a business out of it. But now the ideas on ITV, so it's hard for me to do my own thing. Yeah, so it's very inclusive.
Thank you, Julius.
Okay, so I'm Hannah, and I have a male mentoring business. So we mentor males in education, and we also mentor males in corporate. I'm buzzing tonight because yesterday I pitched live to Lloyds Bank and Foundervine, and I came second. And so the woman who won, she has been in business for 7 years from Hong Kong. She's got a factory out there and is now speaking to John Lewis. So in my eyes, I won because I couldn't compete with that. So yeah, we've been in business for less than a year, and we go into colleges, schools, and universities, and also go into corporate and do mentoring for males in education and corporate. What I want to get out of this session is I'm already set up, so I have a CIC and I also have a limited as well. What I really want to get out of here is understanding dividends. So I just found out that I can pay myself $750 and not get taxed. Kind of dividends, something like that. I've heard. So I want to know more about dividends.
It should remind me of that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm Clara, and I work on the Black University program. I helped set up the East Asian Solidarity Group, grassroots community group, and sort of just seeing if there's any possibility of making that financially sustainable, as opposed to it being like a thing. So yeah, I'm very much new to the business world, so I'm really open to learning anything. And I guess, yeah.
We've got a couple of you people. Are you together, or are you?
Yes, the first time we came for this session, just to understand more, we're looking for funding business. We have got key images in this company, and just to understand more about that.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Pearl. My first time here. It should be actually invited me.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm new in the UK as well. I came in last year. So I'm a real estate consultant for like 5 years in Africa. So turnover of about £1 million. So we're hoping to actually set up a real estate company here in the UK as well.
Always needs somewhere to stay. Real estate. Well, I'm going to have to put it over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming today.
I'm so glad to see everyone. As I was introduced, my name is Olu. I'm an accountant, a qualified accountant. I've been in Bristol for over 20 years now. Studied locally in Bristol, went to College Green, went to UWE, and worked in Bristol as well. When Steve told me about this opportunity today, I said to him, yes, I have to do it. Come out, come and see everyone, listen to everyone's beautiful business ideas, and exchange knowledge and ideas. You all have fantastic business ideas. For those of you that have already started, and for those of you who are looking to start, I think this is a very, very good place for you to get some information. I do have a PowerPoint slide of about 27 slides. It could be a lot of information, but what I would like, you have said what you would like to take out of this meeting. But at the same time, if you have any specific question while I'm going through the slide, please don't hesitate to stop me.
Get a copy of the slides.
You could. I mean, it's nothing. Exactly. There's nothing stopping you from not getting.
If you signed up to the Eventbrite,
Yeah,
I can send you the slides.
that's right. And some of the information I'll be sharing are general information. You can find them online. Some of them are things you know yourself. Some of them are things you've heard, but you couldn't, you can't fathom it. You can't understand it. So we try to share quite a lot of light into it. When Steve gave me the theme for today, was looking at the difference between CIC and the limited company for guarantee. But they're using a lot in there because I can do that in 2 minutes, just the difference. So I decided to, take a step back, look at what I think would be useful to any business owner, any business startup, and we take it from there. You lot have said different things about what you're looking to get out from this conversation, and also you lot have different business ideas. All businesses, in terms of business as far as business is concerned, and reporting, businesses are the same. Of course, what you do differs, but when it comes to reporting and how a business is presented and the strategy, the structure, this is exactly the same. So,
It's telling you to go down.
okay, all right. So let's get started. Business structure. So one of the first decisions that a new business. I do have a business.
Yeah.
Okay. I was jump into that again, but okay. Talking about my business, so I'm an accountant, and I have my own accounting practice called Lagos Accountancy Services. I'm available online. I'm more of an online cloud-based accountant, and I live in Bristol. I work in Bristol. You can share information. I can share more of that when we get to the end. So I don't want to make it about myself to start with.
Can I just say, Lagos
Sure.
Accountancy, that
Yeah.
means you are just specifically for African descent or
No.
everything?
No, I have clients all around the country.
Okay.
Mixed breed from Africans or Caucasians, Asians. I spoke quite a lot of business in English. I just chose that name. It's not. I'm actually from Lagos. But the question is, which Lagos are you talking about?
Yeah.
We have 2 Lagoses. We have Lagos in Portugal. We have Lagos in Nigeria. So which one are you referring to?
You're from Nigeria, because you're
So yeah, I'm Nigerian, but I just chose the name. So I'm not design, or I'm not specific for black and ethnics at all. So I do work with black and ethnics. And when I met Steve as well, we're just more kind of, let's showcase what you do, let's support the black and ethnic community. Yeah. Great. So back into this. So one of the first decisions that a new business owner must make is how they want to operate their business. So as a business, so some of these things you might be aware. So let's take a step back. As a business person, you need to first of all decide, how do I want to start? Do I want to start as self-employed, as an individual, or do I want to start as a limited company? When I say self-employed as an individual, you just want to start the business on your own with no legal structure. So the biggest distinction between a self-employed person and a limited company is that there is no legal structure between both of you. So self-employed would then be, for example, I could be a plumber and I walk down the road, I do my business by myself, I haven't got any legal structure. I can actually decide to set up a limited company to do that business. Another thing between a self-employed person and a limited company is that the risk and reward stays with you as a self-employed person. If something goes wrong, or you decide to go to the bank to get a bank loan as a self-employed person, you can get it. But if anything goes wrong, the risk and reward stays with you. Is that concept very clear?
Yes.
So, very important. If you're going into business, you need to assess that. Some people prefer that for different reasons. I want to be self-employed. I want to manage myself. I want the risk and reward to stay with me. I don't want to grow too big. I just want to be, just medium size. And I'm happy with that. So the risk and reward stays with you. If anything goes wrong, it's with you. However, if you want to, expand your business, you want to just guide the size of your business, and you believe your business is going to be something of the future, going to be very, very big in the future, then you can go down the limited company route, which then give you that legal structure. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what's a limited company? So some of this information are general information. A limited company is a type of business that exists separate to its legal entity or to its owners. With a limited company, one of the concepts with a limited company is that you, the owner of a limited company, you are completely separate to the business. So you have, for example, I set up a limited company today and I call it Olu Limited. Olu Limited is the shareholder and the owner of that company. However, Olu Limited is a separate entity to that company, that two separate persons. So what that also means in essence is that when you set up your company, you have your shares. You decide to set up the company with £5, £1, £10, any amount you choose to set up the company. That is the level at which your risk within the company has been limited to, which is why it's called a limited company. Is that clear? So, as I said, comparing that to a sole trader, your liability, the risk and reward is unlimited. And if anything happens, I'm not saying something will happen, but if anything happens, the risk and reward stays with you. If you make so much money, the reward stays with you. If you make less money, but there's a problem, the risk stays with you. But within a limited company, right, your risk and reward is limited to the amount you use to start the business for a limited company. But for the purpose of our conversation today, we're going to be talking more about a limited company and how the limited company could fit into what you want to do. For a limited company, you need to have a minimum of one director to set up a limited company. Also for a limited company, depending on the route you're going to go into, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, you can have shareholders, you can have members. We'll talk about that in the next slide. To set up a limited company, application is done on Companies House. So you go on Companies House and make an application. Any questions from anybody so far? Yeah. So going into a limited company, as I said, everything that a company owns and is totally separate from the personal asset of the business owner. So that was the entity concept I talked about. And it's very, very important as business owners to understand that entity concept. Whether you're running a CIC or you're running a profit-making business, which is designed to make profit, the entity concept, which is using my diagram on the side, the business is on one side and the owner is on the other side. And you really, really need to respect that because by law, that is the way it is structured. You need to understand that my business is on one side and me as the owner is on the other side. You want to go any questions about that? Okay. Next slide, please. So we have two types of a limited company. There are two types. We got a private company and we have a public company. For a public company, we don't really need that conversation for the purpose today. But a public company is a company that is publicly trading. This is the general information for you. Or they are listed on the stock exchange, whether in the UK or abroad. These are going to be your Amazon, your Google, just big corporations, publicly trading. But for the purpose of our conversation today, we're going to be talking about private companies. So which are these, small and medium-sized businesses, next slide please, and businesses that could either be designed for the community. So for a private company, which I suppose is what most people in this room are looking to set up, a private company. For a private company, it is owned by most of its founders in comparison to a public company. The private company, the founders are the owners, and sometimes they're also a director within that business. And the private company is mostly designed for micro and small businesses. So all the companies you've set up so far, through companies out, for those of you who have your own company, they're all private companies. You can have a director and a shareholder up to about 200. Anything more than that, you need to start pushing towards a publicly traded company. So now we're taking another step into company structure. So we have different types of private company. I think you've gone too far.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So a company could be limited by shares, which I talked about briefly initially, and it could also be limited by guarantee. So when you say limited by share, that means I'm starting the business. So the share is more like your ownership in your business. I'm starting this business today. What is my ownership in this business? That could range from £1 to infinity, depending on how much you want to use to start the business. Obviously, you're going to start the business with what we call capital, which is the amount you want to use to start the business. So, I said, if you start, for example, with £1, that means your liability, provided you haven't done anything that is detriment of your company, your liability is limited to £1 or the amount you start the business with, which is what it means by limited by shares. So your liability is restricted to shares. For a limited company by shares, the company will have to have a shareholder. So the shareholders are the people that own the company. Right? I'm going to talk about the difference between a shareholder and a director. But for this slide, the shareholder is the person that owns the company. It belongs to me, I own the company. Within a private limited company. You can have more than one shareholder, you can have 2, 3, 4, you can have 2 shareholders, 50-50 partnership, you can have 3 at the rate of 33% ownership, you can have 4 at 25%, depending. Person of significant control. So within a shareholding business, you can have more than one shareholder. Also, directors are people that actually run the business. Right? Directors are different, but shareholders can also be directors. So directors on the name, you're directing the business. However, with businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, most of the time, the shareholder who owns the business is also a director. So, for example, your one-man or one-woman band businesses, one-person businesses. In those scenarios, director and the shareholder are the same. It could be an husband and wife or company where both of them are participating in the day-to-day, management of the business. So in that case, the shareholder is also a director. But sometimes you can set up a company as a shareholder, you own it, however, you don't have time to manage it on a daily basis. So you can appoint somebody to do the business with you. So that is another structure you can look into. I haven't got time. I got the idea, set up the business, but I haven't got time to do that. So I'm gonna actually appoint Mr. A or Mrs. A to look after the business for me. So that person will be the director, directing the business. The director does not necessarily mean the owner, this is director, but the shareholder and the director could be the same person.
Can I jump in?
So,
So what we find most of the time, right, is that with those that are running tech companies and they're starting a company because they want to sell it, they would have their share as maybe £1,000. That means if someone wants to buy the company at one share, it's £1,000. So if they want to be a 50% shareholder, 1,000 times 50, that's what they will buy their share in, right?
Right.
But if you start your limited by share company and you value it as £1, that means anyone else who wants to be a shareholder will pay £1 for whatever amount of the share. So that actually puts a value on your business, you know, if you are thinking about later on selling it or trading it, that is the value that you put on your business. So it's really important that you really think about that value. It's just a number on the form, but when someone else is looking at your business or evaluating it, or you go to Dragon's Den or you're doing your pitch and someone thinks, oh, you want me to be an investor, how much am I investing and what is my dividends going to be from that? It's all going to be about that profit share. So really do consider that part for those that want to start limited by shared businesses very well. And also in terms of the social enterprise landscape, a limited by share business can also be a social enterprise on the basis that its dividends, is not 100%. So it's 50% to 75%. So if I have my own company and I sell shoes, like Tom's, for example, and I have shareholders and we have directors, the dividend that's paid out is only paid out at 35% to the shareholders. The 75% makes us a social enterprise, and therefore I can go and get social investments. So it's not that all social enterprises are CICs or limited by guarantee and all of this other stuff. It's just a different business model, but it must be within your constitution that is the business model that you are, and therefore it sticks like that. So anyone who reads it knows that is how your dividend is divided, and that's how your share is divided, and therefore they can see the social good that you actually do as a profit for purpose. Profit for purpose. You want to get profit, but you want to use it for some sort of social good.
Thank you.
Just one question.
Sure.
Can you revalue shares? I started the company,
Yeah.
8 shares worth of time.
Yeah.
What's the process?
So you can value a share. You can value a share. Then it depends on the value of your company itself. As Cic said, when you start your business, the amount you use to start a business, which is your share, some people look at it as the value of your business. However, over time, the value of your business grows because, first of all, you might have goodwill with those within the community. You might start having quite a lot of assets because you're buying loads of assets. You're also stacking up quite a lot of cash. So over time, you start a business 10 years ago, and now, what you have in the business has grown exponentially. Then the value of the business is more than how much you started the business 10 years ago. In that position, you can actually value your shares in that position to say, all right, as of today, just put it in the context. If I buy shares in, let's say, Tesco's 15 years ago, I could afford it for probably 50p. But if I'm to buy it today, it's going to cost me more. Reason being, not because Tesco has changed, but probably Tesco 20, 15 years ago only had 100 stores, you only have 1,000 employees, but today they're bigger. So that's the same concept with your business. So because you're starting your business with £1 or £100 today, doesn't mean that is the value. What it means is that is how much you're starting the business with today. If you then want to issue shares to the public, or I decide to say, I want to join your company today and I want to buy shares from you, you can say, you can call in the value of the company based on what you own against what you owe. Then they can say, based on this, we believe you can sell each shares for more than £1, probably for £50.
Who sets that figure? Because you look at something like HMV.
Yes.
Back in the day, brilliant. But then as music changes, so their shares, they must drop it.
That's right.
For a period, they're probably overpriced.
Yeah. So who set that? No one sets that. It depends on the books of the company, your financial statements. So your account you prepare every year, then you submit to HMRC and you submit to Companies House. So that's what we use to do the shares valuation. So you look at what you have. Okay, what do you have on your books? You have quite a lot of loans, you have a lot of liabilities. So we compare your assets to your liabilities to then decide how much is the value of your business. There's some businesses that is being sold for £1, and they have so much capacity, they have so much assets, but problem is their liabilities outweighs what they have. So it's better to actually give it away than to continue to do the business. So that when it comes to business valuation, that is how we look at it. I mean, see, I've talked about a few of my slides, but that's not a problem. If you move on to the next one, so I don't.
So can I ask, so
Sure.
are you saying that, so if I set up my business and I've only put the shares as £1, I didn't really understand it, can I go back to Company's House and change it to 1,000, or can I not do that?
You can do that.
Oh, I thought you said you couldn't change the shares or choose shares.
You can change it.
It was Sid that said it, but he was talking about
Yeah, so they said
specific.
you couldn't.
You were saying be careful.
Be careful.
Yes, you got to be very careful. The question is, why do you want to change it?
I'm gonna make enough money. I mean, yeah,
Pardon?
I'm gonna be making loads of money.
No, but it doesn't make any difference you changing it or not. Because that's not the value you're doing is selling the business. Because if you start the business with £1,000 today, what that means is financially you need to put £1,000 into the business bank account to start with. That's what the shares mean. You see, I'm starting the business with £1,000. So cash flow wise, you need to put £1,000 into your business. Because that is the amount you're starting the business with. Does not necessarily mean in the future or a year afterwards, you can sell the business for £1,000 because the value of the business has gone down drastically. You can just sell it for £0.
But what if it goes up? So if I give my share as £1
Yes.
and it goes up within the next 3 months,
Yes.
can people buy shares for £1?
You can decide any amount you want when you want to sell your shares. The selling of your shares to the public has nothing to do with the amount you start the business with. Is that clear?
Why you have to be careful about changing? Is it when you're selling the business that you would then be selling it for £1 that what you put on Company's House?
When you're selling your business, so there's what we call, just to digest a little bit, there's what we call capital gain.
Yeah.
So that's the gain you get when you sell a chargeable asset.
Yeah.
So when you sell your house, you sell shares. So if you're selling your business in the future, let's imagine you sell your business for £1 million. So what are your capital gains? You take the £1 million, it gains the amount you use to start the business. That's where that is relevant. But when it comes to selling shares to the public, you can sell the shares to the public at any amount you choose, depending on the value of your business, not the amount you use to start the business.
Okay.
So people
So like
start.
when Marshmallow started, they
Yes.
were setting it up and like getting people to just put in £5, but
That's fine.
they knew they were going to make lots of money. Marshmallow.
That's right. So they use that to get in a lot of people
Yeah.
for cash flow purposes. If you look at a publicly traded company, they call it IPO, initial public offering, just for people to gather the money in. Fine, but that does not mean 2 years down the line that's the same amount they're going to sell the shares because the business has gone up. But if you decide to buy shares in Marshmallow, as you said, and you decide to sell it and you make a gain, the gain is calculated by the amount you sold it against the amount you bought it. Right? Well, setting up your business and setting it up with either £1 or £1 million is irrelevant when you are selling shares to other people. So when people say be careful in the sense that if I say I'm going to start this business, I want my share capital to be £5,000. First of all, what that means is you need to put £5,000 into the business bank account. So that's why they say be careful.
What do you mean into the business bank account? So if you take something like Void, they have electric scooters.
Yeah.
They cost a lot each one. Monopoly, that's paper. It's not going to cost me much. The share price comes quite high. It's very, very popular. Yeah.
So if you're buying shares in that business, what's going to happen is you're exchanging money for rights. So if I buy shares in Tesco today, I'll give Tesco money and they give me the right to hold shares in Tesco. Right? Does that make sense? That's the same thing happening within your business. Your company, don't forget what I said about the entity concept. Your company is completely different to yourself. So what you're doing in essence, when you set up a company, you are buying shares in your company. So that's what you're doing in effect. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm saying put that money into your business bank account. You say, I'm starting my business with either £1 or £5,000.
That money just sits there.
That's it there. That's what you used to start. You can use it, but that's what you start the business with. So you can start using the money to buy goods and services. It's like an opening position to start with. Which is why they say you've got to be very, very careful. Careful in the sense that you need to know how much you want to put in your bank account to start with. And also, If things goes wrong in the future, which is not your fault, the amount of liability you can take is limited to the amount you start the business with. Imagine you start the business with £10,000 thinking, oh, I'm going to use that to inflate the value of my business. That's fine if you want to do that. But if things goes wrong, the government will claw back up to £10,000 from you to cover all the costs in the business. But that is where your liability is limited to, which bonds the name limited liability company. But if it was £1, it wouldn't take £100 from you. So you need to look at that structure. And that structure is mostly common among private companies designed for profit. So if you are into social enterprise, not for you to worry about that much, but I will talk more about it if we move on. So that diagram also talks about the relationship between the director and the shareholder. I talked about it earlier on, just using my analysis of at the top, you can see the directors in the boardroom and the shareholders in the suits. That's right.
I don't think there's black people either.
Should I move it?
Yes, well, can you go back a step, please?
You want me to write that thing back down?
That's right, I'll make sure I get a black one next time. Yeah. Just go forward a bit. That's fine. So members, which I will talk about more in my next slide. However, members is a term. Members and shareholders are exactly the same, but in a limited company by shares, you use shareholders. In a limited company by guarantee, you use members because they don't have shares. So that's another thing you can take away from today. The term members and shareholders is exactly the same, but they use members in the limited company by guarantee. I will talk about what it means by guarantee. It's exactly the same concept. We'll move on to the next slide, Steve, please. So limited company by guarantee. To start with, no shares, because you haven't got any share capital, because it's a company by guarantee. So what you're doing, what the members are doing, instead of shareholders, you don't use that term as a shareholder, you use members.
Right.
Okay? So what you're doing as a member is, we guarantee the sustainability of this company. That's what that means. Well, that's why it's called limited company by guarantee. You also guarantee by any amount you want, and people guarantee by £1, depending on how much you want to use, and some people guarantee by £1,000, any amount you want. But in this case, you guarantee you don't set up shares. And because you haven't got shares, right, there isn't dividends, which I will talk about in a minute. Within the limited company by guarantee, the directors, most of the time, are members. The limited company by shares, the shareholders are not necessarily directors, but they could be. But limited company by guarantee, the members are mostly directors automatically, because there's no share structure. I said no dividends is allowed. So in the limited company by guarantee, you only pay dividends. So for those of you that have shares, if you have shares in any company, you get dividends every year. So that dividend is from the back of the shareholders you do have.
There is people who really don't know what dividend is.
Sure. Yeah. I will talk about that. So, first of all, a dividend is only allowable in a limited company by shares. So you have shares in that company. So what a dividend means is a portion of your profits at the end of the financial year, which is used to compensate the shareholders. So dividend is only paid after profit. So if you don't make a profit, you can't pay yourself dividend. So if your business is not profit making and you pay yourself a dividend, that is what we call illegal trading. The dividend is only paid after profit and after tax has been paid to the revenue. If you have your company, make profits, profit is calculated, some of you might all know, your takings minus your expenses, you worked out the tax, and you have XYZ left. You can take a portion of that, depending on your shareholding. If you're 100% shareholder in a company, you can take any amount you want, as long as it's not at the detriment of the company. to compensate yourself for holding shares and paying out profit to yourself. If it's a 50-50 partnership, you take 50% of the amount of dividends you declare. So what happens is at the end of the financial year, as business owners, you and your business partner should come together and hold what we call an annual general meeting. Talk about how have we done this year, what are the good, what are the bad. And you can then say, based on the figures in front of us, we've made a profit of £50,000 after tax has been paid. We have 50 grand in the bank account. How much of this should we use to compensate ourselves? That's it. Well, it's like a bonus, yeah, more or less like a bonus.
But you can pay it monthly, right?
With dividends, if you pay it monthly, because of the tax rate of the dividends, if you go into my further slide, it is very attractive. And the HMRC do not want to pay it monthly. Because if you pay it monthly, it will be deemed to be a salary. Because dividends, as I said, is only paid after tax, right? And you only know your tax position at the end of the financial year. However, HMRC allows you to pay dividends on a quarterly basis. But before you can pay on a quarterly basis, you need to make sure you have a good financial system in place where you can forecast to say, all right, I think I can take it this month. I can project it. Because you don't want to fall foul of it. Because if you take too much, it's a big
So
trouble.
where did the 750 come from?
So 750. I don't know what you mean by 750.
So where did the £750? Because everyone says it's £750
For
maximum you can pay yourself on dividends.
nothing like that. You need 7.5%.
No, it's 750 quid.
So there's a dividend allowance
Yeah.
of £2,000,
Okay.
which means your first £2,000 you earn as dividends is taxed at 0%.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
No.
Sorry. £750. You never come across that
So
before.
I've spoken to 2 accountants,
Okay.
and they've all said that you can pay yourself 750. And I know this sounds really crap, but there's a lady on TikTok,
Mhm.
an accountant on TikTok, and she talks about it as well. That is £750 dividend, no more than that.
You can pay yourself.
You to put that
Yeah,
money back.
So if you multiply 750 by, I can't, £750.
Yeah,
No.
she's like a certified.
She might be correct talking
Yeah.
about, she might be giving you, was she addressing the public or was she addressing a specific person?
The public. She's an accountant on
Okay.
TikTok, and that's all she does is do accounting for small businesses.
Okay, and she said
Like, how do you do this?
750.
Yeah.
Alright, as far
dividends.
as the legislation is concerned,
Yeah.
dividends, you can take any amount you want, provided it's within your profit structure. However, the dividend allowance, when you don't pay no tax,
Yeah.
is at 0%. It's £2,000. Anything more than that, you pay tax on it at different rates. Up to £50,000, you pay tax 7.5%. And anything more than that, you pay tax at 32.5%, up to £150,000. And anything more than £150,000, you pay tax at 37.5%. So that's for dividend. So that's 750. I'm not sure about that. If you Google it, you can come up with an answer, say 750 dividend. I'm not sure about what she meant by
So
750.
£2,000
Yeah.
is, that's annual.
That's annual, yes. I beg your pardon, annual.
2,000 freebie money.
Yeah, freebie money, you can pay yourself annually. Get that. But as I said, the dividend itself must be paid after your profit has been declared and after taxes have been paid. If you want to leave on dividends from tax planning point of view, sorry, I'm going to digress a little bit because I've been dragged into dividends. For tax planning purposes, that's all right. For tax planning purposes, some people leave on dividends. And the reason why they live on dividends is because there's a cheaper tax rate, right? In comparison to profit from employment or profit from self-employment or salary. So they live on that.
Dividend.
It's cheaper to get a dividend. So that's another thing you should take from here.
You get less, you pay less tax.
You
right?
pay less tax on dividends, right?
It's saying that it's like-
That's right, it's got a dividend. So there are pros and cons to that. From a business point of view, if you're not limited by shares, you can't pay dividends. So if CIC is your target, right, then the dividend structure, you need to think about it very well. So that's one of the disadvantages of that, which I will talk more about in my further slide. So from a dividend point of view, is it cheaper loan? Is it not a loan? Is it cheaper income? Because it's taxed at a lower rate in comparison to salaries and other income. Some people believe in it, so they can just take it on a quarterly basis. If you take it quarterly, that is acceptable. If you take it monthly, HMRC could pull you down and deem that income to be salary. You need to be very careful. So what I advise some of my clients to do is, if you have a very good projection, so at the beginning of the year, based on what we've done last year, we do what we call a cash flow forecast. So we then advise you to take 9,000 every quarter, depending on what you can afford or what the business can pay you. Of course, we can't be asked to say, if you believe income in the future is to be slow, can we revise it? So you can live on your dividends and pay yourself a dividend. You just need to make sure, from compliance point of view, you need to provide yourself what we call a dividend voucher. So it's like a pay slip, right? It just says X amount of dividends was paid to you in this quarter. So that's like an evidence. So if you want to get a bank loan and the bank is asking for proof of your income, you show them your dividend voucher, like a pay slip. So that's what a dividend stands. That's what it does. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah. So it's a very, very attractive way of extracting money from your business. Limited by guarantee. So I said no dividend is allowed because you haven't got any shares. And with the limited by guarantee, it's also designed for social enterprise. So it is not completely the same as a social enterprise. But some people do see it as a social enterprise. It depends on your mission statement and how you do set it up. So, but still with the limited by guarantee, we expect you to reinvest your profits into the business. Because once you have the profit and you pay the tax, what do you do with the money? Because you can't pay dividends. So you leave the money within the business. Yeah. So CIC. So these were set up in 2005. So we talked about limited by shares, profit making, obviously. Limited by guarantee, well, it seems to be profit making, but still you guarantee you guarantee the business, and at the same time you also design it to support the community, but it's not really the same as a social enterprise. Then the government came up with a community interest company to bridge a limited company by shares and a limited company by guarantee. So a CIC is a combination of a company and a charity. It is a company with a social mission. So with the CIC, as the name sounds, community interest company, which some of you in this room do have, is actually designed for the community. No if, no buts. A limited company by shares that we're talking about, or a limited company by guarantee, could be designed for anything. It could be anything. And you're there to make profit. And you have you don't report to anybody. It's just there. But for CIC, this is a regulated market, right? It's a community interest company designed for the community. So application can be made to Companies House, which some of you have done, and also to the CIC regulator. I said 3 or more directors at a separate address. So you don't need more than 3 or more directors to open up a CIC. But from a funding point of view and from a grant point of view, what we've seen is that most donors would prefer a CIC to have more than 1 director, up to 3, living at a separate address. So if you're looking for funding and you have your CIC, I think that's a very, very good tip for you to know that. So it doesn't, because we've had people that have made applications recently and they were rejected because you have 1 director on board at the same address. Just 1 director, and I actually had another one. They had more than 3, but they all use the business registered address.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 3, but they use the business registered address.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a problem. So that is very important for HSC.
Can I ask a question? So only one of our directors have the same address as the registered address. Is that okay?
That's okay. But the other directors should have a separate address.
Yeah, and the other directors on the different address.
That's fine. So for funding purposes, does not mean you can't get the funding, but sometimes, just from the point of view of transparency, and because it's a public money and it's donated money, they would expect more than 1 person, because if it's just you alone, no one can challenge you.
Yeah.
So just want the money to be spent for the purpose. So they prefer, some donors, not everybody, some donors prefer more than 3 directors as a director within the CIC, living at more than 1 separate address.
And the family members.
Nah, definitely not.
No.
That's so you can't challenge yourself.
Yeah,
right?
but if you got a partner,
Yeah.
it's a good thing to say, let's not get married.
So what do you mean partner? You mean business partner or marital partner?
Like relationship partner.
Okay, relationship partner. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think as I said, it is not black and white.
Yeah.
He could get challenged as husband and wife or partners, could be a director, husband and wife, partners, and probably another cousin could be a legitimate director in a CIC, and you run it fantastically. However, if you apply for funding, does not mean they can't give it to you. If you make your case forward and you can show you're a person of good standing, why not? So it depends.
And you're likely to have the same address, but that also.
Well, from a donation point of view, it's not 100% no. They could not, depending on the funder.
You could just live in a cooperative with someone, or actually housemate with someone who you're.
You could. Nothing stopping you. But what I'm just saying is some donors are very stringent and they stick to that. But for those that are not stringent, you don't mind. With husband, wife, partners, and children, as long as you're people of good standing, there's no reason why you can't.
And why is it that they are like that anyway? What did you say?
I think it's just a case of, I think
They're regulating the money.
absolutely regulating the money.
Basically saying that if it's people of different addresses, then they are more like more business rather than family.
Yeah.
Like businesses.
Yeah, and also because I did talk about annual general meeting, which every business should have at the end of the year. If your families, the school of thought is you're not really having an annual general meeting. Doesn't necessarily mean if you are, you may to come around. I mean, people do go abroad for the annual general meeting. You're allowed to, and it's tax allowable to go abroad to have an annual general meeting. If it's an husband and wife company, annual general meeting could be had in the bedroom or on the dining table. So if you then want to have a very crucial conversation about strategy and funding, and your family, genuinely, can you have it? There will definitely be vested interest. Yeah. So, which is why they reckon different directors living a different address, no relation. Just don't mean you can have social relations, but it's just a case of just policing the money. As I said, it's for the benefit. At the end of the day, a CIC is not for the benefit of the shareholders or the members. Yeah. We've been talking about limited by shares. We're talking about dividend. We talked about that dividend is for the benefit of the shareholders. The whole point is for me to enrich my pocket. If I'm setting up a limited by shares company, a limited by guarantee, but once I cross over into a CIC, I'm actually saying, oh, government, I'm designing my business for the community. It's strictly for the community. No if, no buts.
So you can make a profit though, and you can pay yourself.
Absolutely. We're going to get that in the next slide.
You can forget that.
I would definitely emphasize on that in the next slide. So we're just talking about structure and why things are being designed this way. You're going to say something.
Yeah. So in terms of the address, when your individual directors are registering for the CIC, they will put the individual home address. Yeah. But when then you register the address of the company, it gives you an option where you want to put the address of the company. So then on company's house, it doesn't show the addresses of the individuals. But when it comes to a funder, they will obviously ask you that. They will ask you the contact details, email addresses of the different directors. And this is a regulated industry. It's much easier if you don't have relatives and people that are affiliated to you if you get into this thing. It's just that's the simple part of it.
I hadn't connected you talking specifically about CIC. I thought it was just something generally about companies.
No. Any other company? Any other company, it doesn't bother anybody. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. Any more questions? Move on to the next slide. Fine. So another very important part, which I think is very crucial when it comes to CIC, is what we call asset lock. You might have come across this before when you set up a CIC. So asset lock is also, as I said, is a regulated market CIC. So what asset lock means, consumer diagram there, you're locking the assets of the CIC, which means the CIC, when you set up the CIC, any asset you accumulate in that CIC cannot be transferred to the directors or the members and cannot also be sold below the market value. If you have a CIC and you do have, you've accumulated a building, land and building, or you have, machinery, you just can't transfer it or sell it below the market value. If you want a limited company by shares or by guarantees, you can do whatever you want. You can sell it to your brother if you want to, because it's your company. But with a CIC, once you set it up, the asset is locked because you can't transfer it below the market value. And also, when you set up a CIC, which some of you might have seen, you have to nominate your asset lock body. So the asset lock body, what that actually means is they want you to nominate a CIC or a charity that shares the same objective as your charity, as your CIC. So in case you're winding down tomorrow, for any reason, they will then transfer the assets to your nominated CIC. Don't forget, it's about the community. It's about an individual. So if I have a CIC today and I'm just going out of business, or I just decide not to do it anymore, and I know you have a CIC, I can transfer my CIC asset to you. That's within the scope of asset lock. And as I said, it's designed to protect the CIC and to ensure public benefit. That's the whole point of the asset lock.
Can it only be transferred to another CIC, or can it be transferred to another community?
So you can only be transferred to a charity or another CIC.
How do you go about finding, like, if you don't know, like, how do you go about matching?
So to start with, before you set up your charity, before you set up the CIC, you would have nominated a CIC body anyway. So that's part of the application process. So if you don't nominate one, you can't be registered.
What is there an established CIC already? Are they like already have someone?
I can nominate you. You can nominate me.
You don't have to tell the person.
Yeah. Well,
So they might have got
in gesture.
had to nominate someone else.
Yeah, everybody will have to.
So it's like a nice little kind of work.
Yeah. So you can nominate. I mean, it's in good gesture, in good faith. I would advise you let the person know I have nominated you for XYZ, just for compliance purposes. I have nominated you, but you need to. I don't think it's a problem if you let them know. But yes, I would definitely advise you let them know. But you can nominate anybody, either a charity or a CIC. But very important, you must share the same objective as you.
Can you change your mind?
Good.
Yeah.
But you need to. Yeah, you can change your mind, but you then need to. To change your mind, you need to update what we call your constitution. So when you apply for your CIC, which some of you have done, you've drafted the constitution. There's a module constitution online where you include the name of your asset lock body. And if you eventually follow up with the nominated person, you can change your mind as long as they are a CIC and they continue to hold the status of a charity. You can change.
It sounds so complicated, doesn't it?
The paperwork.
It sounds complicated, but I think for me, what helped, because I'm dyslexic, I got a Bosco to help me, and they just did it for me for free. To the point they were so good that I was like, oh, can I put you down as my nominated charity because you were so good? And they were like, no, you get paid from the government to do this.
Right.
Like, you don't need your money. Go and find a CIC that you can put down. And so, like with Bosco, what they do is you write it first, your articles of association, your constitution, you email it in to them, and then they literally just turn it off. They just were like, no.
So what's complicated is the CIC process.
Yeah, it sounds so complicated.
What makes it complicated is the constitution,
Yeah.
right? And the article of association. Making the application line, you go through it,
Yeah.
and you answer all the questions.
Yeah.
And the only thing you need to attach,
Yeah.
apart from there's a form where you need to explain what you want to do,
Yeah.
it's called CIC 36. You
Yeah.
fill that, talk about your objectives, and then have to attach a constitution.
Yeah.
That constitution, there's a module online. If yours, there's a template online. So when I say, I'm just trying to explain where, which is why it could be complicated. So I'm just trying to make it not complicated. Once you've done your CIC 36, which is easy to complete, there's a very horrible template online, which is very scary, with black and red writings on it.
Yeah.
Very scary. It was 25 pages. It's 24 pages. Guess what? It is not complicated. If your objective is not complicated, if your objective, if you don't need because some CIC needs a legal structure. Because I heard the lady there talking about endowments and things along this line. You might need a bigger legal structure to embed everything together. So that model might not be applicable to you, but vast majority of CIC would be able to use that model. So it's just a case of going through it. There's certain things there that you just need to edit. Of course, you might need a professional to just get that edited for you and include your asset lock body. And that is it. So people find it very complicated when you set up a CIC because they believe I need to write the constitution by myself from beginning to the end. No, there's a template. And also, if your objective is not complicated, this is standard CIC just for the community, the specific things I want to do for the community, then you can use that model.
So the CIC are really good. So I
They
done,
have very
I
good.
done it first on my own, and I got rejected. They rejected it. They were like, you didn't fly your asset lock right. I don't know. And then I started crying. I was like, I don't know how to do it. And then they referred me to Roster. I sent it to Roster, and she's like, girl, what have you done? I don't know. Changed it all for me. I sent it, and it was done.
Yeah. So they could fix it.
So I'm just going to show you the quickest way of doing this. All right, is personally.
Yeah, no,
I understand.
Because I got rejected first of all.
The templates of this online, but the importance of your constitution.
Yeah.
It's your Bible in which your organization is going to follow.
Yeah.
And it's the reason of any funder giving you any funding. So if it's not there, or the funder doesn't exist, right? So in a way, because you don't want to keep changing it all the time, you really want to think about it and you want to write it down. Now, some things in the Constitution are the same. The main things that are different is normally your aims and objectives and the powers of the organization. Okay? You could do this all night long, and I guarantee you it's fun, right? So, for example, I'm going to use myself as an example. So you can go to any company. Who wants to give me a company to search? Give me any company to search.
Of course.
No. Give me another company to search. Give me another company to search.
Amazon.
No, as
Is
a
that
public
for
company. No.
yes.
Yeah.
Maria.
Huh? Maria. No, it's too personal. Very local. Yeah, give me someone else. Huh? Void. This CSE?
So what do you want to check? A template.
Yeah, I want to just show people an example of how you find constitution. So I got it. So if you go to any company and you go in the incorporation, you can find the constitution, yeah? And this is the articles of association. So whatever organization you'd like to be similar to, based on the values of that organization, you'd kind of do something like this. Scroll down. Oh yeah, I realized I didn't have one. But at the bottom, you find a constitution. You copy and paste the things that you need, and you put it on your side.
So if you're doing a radio.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that then. Thank you. And I'll just show you this is, but you gotta know what you're writing, and you gotta know what it is, right? And that's why I think it's important for any constitution to be made by the directors and or the people involved in it, so that you know what is the objectives of your organization. So let's go here, history fillings. I'm gonna go into corporation, and I'm gonna see what's this objectives here. Even charities, just go to charities house, and you can find out a lot more about it. So let's see here if there's a constitution.
Sometimes you don't find it there.
Yeah, I know. I trust. I didn't even find mine. No. So is it there? 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 Yeah. So they've got this form as an example. Some people will fill in that form. Oh, I think it's that. There we go. Yeah.
So that's a model template that was used.
This is a model template.
That's a model. Vast majority of CIC will use the model template. There isn't any requirement for you to use more than the model template, unless the CIC is designed for something extremely complicated, and you have a lot of members. That's another thing. You have a lot of members, and there's so much vested interest in the CIC. Other than that, I believe the model constitution will suffice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And all of these other things here are predominantly the same for many others. The only thing that's different, so here you can see who they have the asset lock with. I can't read, but whoever it is. And then here they've got the objectives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And then powers.
You have to read the powers, see the liabilities of the members.
Yeah.
So the model is what you need to be, keen about. So when I set up CIT for people, I give a snippet of the model. I tell them this is what the constitution is going to sound like. Are you happy with this? And they fly with it and you set it up.
So that was just an example. And in terms of like Rebecca, the stuff that you're looking for, you would normally find that with like heritage organizations or some philanthropical associations, mainly foundations, right? And you go in and you find the model of incorporation and what they do and how they want to divvy up funds or find assets. And you probably use the same thing, because most of the text is not very specific. It just gives you a rough idea of what they'll be doing because they don't want to be too specific, yeah? And then on top of these things, then you got your SIC codes, which determines what field your organization is in, and which you can always change when you update your admin accounts. But I think when you're looking at your asset lock, that's an important part for any funders in terms of social enterprises. And then the nominated organizations, you can find any that you prefer, charity or another CIC. Those are just very important parts. Your constitution, you could always go back to it, and you could always go back.
It's subject to amendment. So what Steve has just showed us is very, very important as well. So if you know of a business or a CIC that does similar as yours, go online, see if you can find their constitution and you can adopt it. So that you can tailor it down to your own CIC.
Yeah.
You need to make you tailor it. Yes, tailor it, definitely. So, so with the CIC as well, right? It also has 2 different branches. So you can set up a CIC limited by shares or limited by guarantee, right? The limited by shares is not really, really common for the CIC. So the limited by shares CIC, as we talked about limited by shares, what makes it stand out is you make profits and you can pay yourself dividends. In the CIC limited by shares, you can pay yourself dividends. So for those of you who want to set up a CIC and you want to pay yourself dividends, you can go down the route of a CIC limited by shares.
But do funders actually, do they frown upon that?
They do. So it's not very common. And also, in the limited company by shares, a normal company, as I said earlier, the dividend, which is like the bonus, unlimited. But with the CIC, limited by shares, the dividends are capped because of the community interest itself. Some donors don't mind. They say it depends on the donor and the size of your CIC. However, from my personal experience, 8 out of 10 will frown upon it. So it's not very, very common, right? So CIC, limited by shares, are common with CIC that are not relying on donation and grants.
Is that why people tend to see? They feel like they have the company, they have the community part, and they have the property.
Well, some people use that structure. Yeah.
What's the question?
So, where a limited company, they have 2 underneath them, right? One is a CIC, and one is probably another company. But with a CIC, you can't have what we call a subsidiary or a group structure. So what you're talking about, they would just have, the directors have a relationship. They are completely separate entities. So I can set up a CIC today and call it Olu CIC, so be limited by guarantee, and set up another one completely separate and call it Olu CIC, limited by shares. These are 2 separate companies. They're not related at all. But the directors are related because the same person is managing it. So you can do that if you want. You have them in one company.
It can't have a holding structure. where there's a bigger one who's responsible for the smaller ones, and it doesn't really
It doesn't work like that unless you want to go into the limited by shares, profit-making trading entity. For example, Sainsbury's owning Hargos and those kind of structure, Google holding that, you wouldn't get that with the CIC because it defeats the purpose. It's for the community. So no profit. You can make it's limited by shares, CIC. It's actually designed for profit because there are some CIC, they provide services to the community, right? They charge, and they make profit and they pay themselves a dividend at the end of the year. They don't rely on any donation whatsoever. So this could be good for them, right? Could be good for them, but the dividend is capped.
Yes, and bearing in mind that any CIC, especially CIC limited by guarantee, needs to do 50% trade. Okay? Because if you're applying for funding and you're just for the last 3 years of trading, you've been always grant dependent, you may not get any grants because there's no sustainability in that. So you need to always have an element of a service, like for example, Gmail adverts. Yeah? You have a service that brings in some sort of income.
Merchandise class of the service.
Yeah, and anything where you are selling something and you're getting money in besides the grants. A CIC is not meant to be a charity and it's not meant to be a full profit. It's in the middle, so therefore it's 50-50 split. But you know, people will give you the time to figure that out. But if you're 3 years, 4 years down the line and you're always grant dependent, you'll find it harder to get any further grants because that's also part of the criteria of getting some funding. They'll always ask you that. Yeah, they'll always ask you that.
Yeah, very important. Thank you very much, Chief. That is also very, very important because at the end of the day, if your reliance is solely on grants, then you just question the whole purpose of your trade. So we advise CIC owners to diversify, to look for different means of raising, business income. They can start offering services. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on your business case. If the kind of services you offer attract a lot of donation, then so be it. But you'll be expected to be, 50% trading, not from the first year, as you said, probably 2-3 years down the line, expect to start, you need to start bringing in some other income rather than donations and legacies. You're going to have to.
It was, yeah. So, did you re-register your CIC? Like, if you decide you want to do it,
I think that's the next slide after this.
Yes, okay. Does say?
Keep that thought. That's the next slide after this.
Okay.
Yeah? Yeah, sure.
I was just going to say, like, I'm going to confirm, but if so, like, you could get like the funders on your side, do like the other CIC, and then when you get big enough to sort of be independent and you want to start being sustainable and make sure you're paying your work as well and yourself work, well, you can use that. Is that?
Yeah, you can change the CIC. You can change the structure of your CIC. So there's a way you can change it. You can go forward, but you can go backward. I would explain that in a minute.
You can't go back.
You can go back. You can go forward.
So if you, okay, so I've got a question actually. There's a particular community space there that registered as CIC, it was charity, and somebody accidentally registered it for limited. And it's messed up everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're like, we need to get that changed. But it's like, how do you get that back?
No.
No, not at all. And it's just
I know you mean.
if you register as a CIC or limited.
Let me jump in. Should I jump into that slide so we talk about it? Yeah, let's go. So yeah, so the good news here is you can convert your limited company into a CIC, right? So, but it has to be like for like. So when I say you can go forward, so if you have a limited company by shares, you can go to CIC, we can only go to CIC by shares, which is what I mean by like for like. If you are a limited company by guarantee, you can set up a CIC limited by guarantee.
Sorry, could you say that again?
If you have a limited company, limited by shares or guarantee, you can convert that into a limited company with a CIC either by shares or guarantee, whichever one you had before.
If you were a limited company.
If you're a limited company.
Okay.
So using the example just made now, was a limited company that was set up, but they were meant to be set up.
No, they were a charity.
They were a
And then
charity.
They reformed.
Okay,
So they didn't scale,
okay,
they reformed and started afresh.
okay.
That's because there's a difference. Here we're talking about
They changed the
a
number,
scale.
the name and everything.
They changed the name, they changed the formation.
Who are we talking about?
Your example.
Oh, my example,
Yes.
yeah, it's
So-
not my company.
So they changed the formation, they changed the
So
name.
it's like a new company?
It's a new company.
Okay.
Yeah, so they lost the other one.
Yeah.
Here, what we're talking about is when you are moving forward from what you already are. So limited by guarantee can become a CIC limited by guarantee.
Yes.
Yes.
And the good thing is, the good news is
Okay.
also that
I can't go back.
the good news is that you can still keep the name.
Mhm.
Yeah, you keep the name. Yeah, did I provoke it all?
No, yeah, no.
Yes.
Yes, yes, you did, yes, you did. Okay, if you then went CIC limited by guarantee,
Mhm.
could you, when you can't go back to the limited by guarantee, can you have to start all over again?
That's it, you're gonna have to start over again.
Once you change that's it.
So once you change the CIC,
Then that's it.
the CIC can be reconverted back to a limited company.
Why
So-
would you want to?
What topic could you come up with? You could grow, I mean, even if you grow, yeah, which is why it's important to really understand what do I want to do, how do I project myself, rather than just, I'm just gonna set up the company now. So once you go CIC, you can't go back.
If you're CIC from the beginning, you can't go limited.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And if you then decide, the good thing with the conversion, with this conversion is, any assets you own within your limited company, you can transfer it into the CIC. For example, if you have land and buildings, you have plant and machinery, you can transfer it into the CIC. However, if you decide to shut it down, it's talked about the asset lock, you're gonna have to find a nominated body to transfer the asset to. If you then want to stop the CIC and start a different business on a fresh and set up a different limited company, you can't transfer the asset, you cannot. Because exactly, start fresh. However, if you start up a new CIC and the CIC shares the same objective as your old CIC, then
But what if they're not on the asset? What if they're not named on the asset?
yeah. If they're not named on the asset lock, they need to update your constitution to say, this is my asset lock body. You need to update that.
One of,
Sorry, go on.
no, carry on.
I was just going to say, so if they started new CIC,
Mhm.
then the CIC that they're coming from, that's you know.
So it depends on the director. Why are they making their old CIC redundant? Are they looking to sell two different CICs, or are they trying to strike that off completely? So if they want to strike it up, it's finished. It's either they then move that into another CIC that has the same objective as them, or they just make it completely dissolved and the asset go back to the States.
Right, so they can't transfer the assets.
They can transfer the asset to a similar CIC that has the same objective.
No, but if they set up another CIC themselves, can they transfer it to their own CIC?
It is included in their as an asset lock nominated body
Right,
in their
okay.
constitution. Yes, they can. If it's not, they can update their asset lock constitution to say this is it. And we also need to make sure it's not just a case of updating. You also need to make sure if you set up a CIC for the purpose of providing music in the community, and you then decide to set up another CIC, the CIC for the purpose of providing, let's say football in the community, if the objectives are completely different, then you can't. It needs to be a similar, because that's the whole point of the asset lock.
So if your next CIC, for example, was to start music and football.
Yes, you could, yes. So we just have to read through the line. Is that clear? So you could do the conversion. It's a very, very important one because it's coming up a lot. We haven't seen a lot of it, and I've been doing a lot of conversion recently. A lot of people are going into social enterprise, especially post-COVID and things like that. So we've been seeing a lot of conversions. It doesn't work their while anymore, keeping the limited company, you have a guarantee of our shares. You just want to go into the community, do more of social enterprise, bring in a lot of funding.
Funding out there, very, very, because there's a lot of like less of them, so there's more applications.
Yeah.
So they're actually asking for more collaboration, or they're asking for more, where they're actually much more stringent than where they're sending them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So they're actually they're looking beyond what you write on paper. They're actually looking at the reality of what you're saying. You can write a very good epistle about a funded application, but what I've noticed is you look at the reality of your business, and sometimes from what I get involved with, because I don't write it, because people employ others to write it, and I've seen people who have paid arm and a leg to get a very good one written, but they still didn't get it. And the reason why they didn't get it was because the reality of the business is not there. Because you need to make sure the CIC actually depicts reality. Does that make sense? So the reality is there, and you then need to back it up with some financial information. How you cash flow forecast. Okay, this is what I estimate in the next 12 months. This is how I think things should play out, and you have a very good structure. Definitely a CIC by guarantee for those of you who want to go into the social enterprise area would be your best bet. Let's take 2 steps back. So just tell limited by guarantee, this depicts that you're not for profit and you're for the community. It's mostly CIC, and at the end of the day, there's no shareholding, no dividends whatsoever. Any profits you make could be invested back into the business. That's the whole point of the CIC. That's right. You will pay a separate wage. So I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, just so I met Divine at Consumer Radio, and there were some great presenters in there, but none of us got paid, did we? But there was just a couple of people who got paid. And I don't know if I feel comfortable setting up a business where I'm the only one getting paid. To be honest though, like looking back, I did get good skills in there, and I did get into the BBC. I would rather have stayed in Gene and grown that as a black radio station rather than going
It's
to
a volunteer.
Not really, not really,
I did
No, it's
okay
not.
out.
not really.
Agree.
But they are talking about paying people now, like things that you have, new management.
You did, I might go back.
I think like if you look at an example, I think within that specific context of Ujima, the BBC is called a micro enterprise, because you've got the big brand, but inside you've got loads of smaller businesses that create the content that actually gets commissioned to go out on the BBC. So similar to how you see the radio station, you've got so many creators in the organization that different people could be commissioned to go do a particular thing, right? And drive audiences onto the platform, so therefore you get paid in one way or another. I think there's so many businesses inside that business that it's about seeing how they can support it to make it thrive. Oh, absolutely. It's a huge potential in there, but like what you're saying about people being able to get paid, I think that's quite a strong element, so charity.
Part of my pitch yesterday, the investor said to me, how are you different from other mentoring companies? And I said, because people are going to mentor through me, they're going to get paid. I'm not out here to ask men, women of the community to come and mentor in a school for free. In their own time. I'm just not about that. I'm just not about that.
I think that's the whole point. That's the biggest, and a lot of CIC are struggling with that. And that's the whole point of what you said earlier on, and I corroborated it. You said that we don't want CICs to be, reliant on donation, because donation will run out. So you need to start thinking about what other sustainability, what other ventures can I venture into to bring more income into my business? Because truly and fairly, you don't want people working for you and not getting paid, regardless. At least you want to give them some stipend, even if they come in voluntarily to work for you. So it's very, very important to start thinking outside the box. If the donations stop coming, how can I be sustainable? Because remember, it's for the community. If you stop the service, there's quite a lot of army behind you that will suffer. So it's very, very important. So
15 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Running up quickly. So both limited companies, limited by guarantee, CIC, they have the same reporting compliance as a limited company. There's nothing stopping them. They're not a charity, it's a company. but it's designed for the community. So they have the same reporting compliance. If you're setting up a limited company, a guarantee it costs you £12. However, if you're setting up a CIC, it costs you £27. So those are the differences. By post. Yes. So this is online. By post. That's quite cumbersome. So I would definitely go for the online version. But the CIC, you must have a very clear objective. Limited company by guarantee. You just set it up. You don't need anything. You don't need any reporting. Okay. All right. All right. Online. All right. So you must have a very
Black people now,
Sure.
and bracket.
sure. That's a good one. Black people picture and bracket. A lot of people do online, but I know some people still do by post.
No, I know, but the thing is, if you say online, because if someone's saying, and they put it in their costing,
Yeah.
and then they go and they think,
Yeah.
oh, it's £35. Oh, no, I've
Yeah.
already put it down for 27.
Right.
I know it's only a few pounds more, but
I know, very clear. Yeah, definitely. Put that in brackets on the black one as well. So CIT was a very, very clear objective. And as I said, it's a regulated market, very, very regulated. So another advantage, pros and cons of limited by guarantee. So member guarantee by £1. It's a legal separate entity between your company and yourself. As a limited by guarantee, salary can be paid to both directors and other staff. Limited by guarantee, no asset lock is required if you're setting up a limited company by guarantee. Disadvantage, no dividends allowed, no share capital. As a limited company by guarantee, it can be seen as a profit-making business because we're a limited company by guarantee. CIC, which is designed for the community. All right, it's designed for the community purpose, not for the members, it's for the community. It attracts donors and grants. There's a separate legal entity between yourself and the CIC. You're completely separate, just like a company. It is a company. It's not a charity, but it's designed for the community. As you said earlier on, salaries can be paid at the CIC. It's not a charity. And people, you shouldn't really, of course, you can attract people to volunteer for you, but you should have that business structure of, I want to pay people to offer their service.
so they have to get paid and they still offer volunteer hours.
Absolutely, they can get paid. As a CIC, you can set up a payroll system for the company. It is a company. You can set up a payroll system and pay the directors and pay the staff. Disadvantages, of course, when you're setting up, there's a compliance fee. A normal limited company costs £12, or a CIC costs £27 online, £35 on paper. Actually, if you go online to check for it, you hardly see the £35 because the government don't want you to send in paper. So they push everyone towards the online option, which is why it's difficult to find a £35 option. So you must have dug in very hard to find a £35. So, as I was saying, so there's an additional application fee with a CIC. When you submit your account as a normal limited company, you don't pay a penny when you submit your account, apart from paying your accountant. But with the CIC, you pay an extra £15 to submit your CIC account at the end of the year. £15. So that can either be paid online or by check.
Is that online or?
Online and
Either by check. Both. £15. So that's an extra burden at the end of the financial year on top of your accountancy fee. Postage stamp as well. So with the CIC, of course, we talked about the constitution. You got put together a constitution, but there's a model. So, and as I said, it's a regulated market. However, there are some businesses that will not be allowed to be set up as a CIC. For example, if the purpose of your CIC is to make political promotion, then the CIC regulator will not accept you. So if anyone is in here with the mind of setting up a political promotion CIC, I don't know what the objective would be, but if you are for political purposes, then unfortunately the CIC regulator would not accept you. So we've talked about conversion and compliance. As I said, both CIC and the limited company or limited company by guarantee are both trading companies. You're actually there to make profit, whether you're CIC by shares or by guarantee, you're there to make profit. Of course, the purpose of the profit is not to enrich yourself, it's to be reinvested back in the business, but you are allowed to make profit. So there's this myth and illusion that I'm a CIC, I'm not meant to make profit. No, you are allowed to make profit. So that's why, of course,
Is it capped?
the profit is not capped. The dividend is capped. When you're paying yourself as a dividend, it's capped. If you're CIC limited by shares, it's capped. If you're CIC limited by guarantee, of course there's no dividend. But you can make £1 billion of profit, but you pay the taxes on it. The compliance is exactly the same as a normal company. You don't know whatever the tax compliance is, you pay taxes at the end of the year.
And for those that don't produce a profit at the end of the year, and then choose to want to go look for social investment, where you are applying for a loan, for example, you want to take on an asset, it becomes a lot tougher because it looks like your business model doesn't work. You know, because how are you going to pay back something if you already on minus? So therefore, it is important to make a profit if you are looking at growing. If you don't want to grow, and some people want to make a cash cow, you can ride that cow out, and it's never going to grow, and therefore the company is never going to have a big enough impact. Or people are not going to see it that they should give you any more money. Okay?
So you need to be very fair with your business, extremely fair in terms of profit making. When you make a grant application, they ask you, how are you going to spend this money? For those of you that have had grants, we have two types of grants. We have restricted and unrestricted. So when a grant is restricted, they give you a grant for a specific purpose. And if you underspend, some of them require you to pay back the grant. If you, of course, you don't require to overspend, because when you're applying for another one, or you're applying for a similar grant, they will ask you, have you experience in something? Can you give us an evidence of what you've done with this grant? And if you show to them you overspent, then they don't place reliance on you. So when it comes to finance management in that area, it is very, very important. When it comes to
But then if you do understand that you actually want to get a match funding and balance it out.
yeah, you could balance it out, but it's very important not to overspend. That's very important, not to overspend. And of course, unrestricted grants, you can use it to pay for anything. So that's also very, very, very important. But they have to come back. Thank you very much.
I shall get your contact
Please,
details.
please. All right. Thank you very much. So, yeah, so that's very, very important with your grant. And I will talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. So with accounts itself, for those of you that are a limited company, every year you're required to submit account to Companies House. The accounts are due 9 months after the end of the year, of your financial year. Every company has its own financial year, which is a 12-month period. It could be from January to December.
What do you mean 9 months after the year?
That's right. So your company has a 12-month period every year.
So say you open in October, when's the account due?
So if you open in October, your accounting period would be from October to September the following year. That's 12 months.
Yeah.
Then 12 months, you then get 9 months from September, which is the end of your year.
Submit the account.
That's right. So technically, that's the way it's been designed. So technically, you are required to submit your Technically, you are required to submit your account 21 months after incorporation. So just to give you enough time. Yeah, software server. It's not very easy, so it takes time to put your books together. That's that one. Of course, we talked about Cic Compliance. When you make your submission at the end of the year, not only do you submit to Companies House, you also do what we call a Cic 34, which talks about how have you achieved your objective in the year. So they ask you those questions. Have you got any stakeholders in the year? You talk about that. They ask you whether any directors were remunerated. That's just for additional information alone. It's not to catch you out. Additionally, have you transferred any assets additionally in the year? Most of the time you say no. But we do encourage CICs to try to make payments to the directors and also to other staff. And of course, there's a £15 submission fee.
So can I just say, so I was filling out a national lottery form yesterday, and it's really important, isn't it, that we actually pay ourselves so we look like a business.
Yeah,
Even if it's £20 salary, like we have to pay ourselves, that we look like we are professional business people.
Yeah,
is that true?
Absolutely, that's very true, and I will emphasize on that in a minute. So to say, tax compliance is completely the same. Both CIC and a limited company, by guarantee or a normal limited company, when you register with Companies House, they also encourage you to register with HMRC. Your tax payable, the tax compliance, you need to pay tax if you make a profit. And as a CIC, you can set up a payroll as well. We encourage you to set up a payroll, look for the funding, try to diversify your business. you can get more money in, you don't have to pay, and how many people you can get one person in, but just structure yourself to say, how can I pay somebody to make sure this person is gainfully employed? Tax is paid at 19% for all limited companies. That's the main rate. There's a potential of that going up in the future, whether you're CIC or you're a limited company, by shares, you're a profit-making company, you pay tax of 19%. Doesn't change. So the CIC is a normal company, but you're designed for the community. I also talked about this earlier on. The entity concept is your company money, my money. So this is a big problem with businesses. And a lot of businesses have been falling foul of this. They've been shutting down because they do not understand this concept. If you haven't taken anything away from here today, please, I would like you to take this away. Your company money does not belong to you.
Say it again, please.
Your company money do not belong to you. It belongs to the company. There are two ways you can extract money from a company. So for those of you already set up, I hope you're complying with this. For those of you who are about to go into business, setting up your business, if you're not self-employed, there are two ways and only two ways of extracting money from a company. One as a salary, and the other way as a dividend. Any other way you could get into trouble.
Yeah.
Any other way would just be me dipping my hands in my business money. That is a loan, and that's a cheap loan. And there are strong tax consequences to that, which I'm not going to cover today. But if you want to have a free conversation, I'm happy to talk to you about that. So that's
do that. You just set up a pension scheme.
And you can write on the grant form like equipment, and equipment can mean you get yourself a new laptop.
absolutely. Those are part of the grant application. You can put that. You put that in your grant application. You actually show your income and outflow in your grant application. So as I said, your company money is not your money. So let's take that away. And how do you do that? Don't get into trouble. How do you do that? It is very, very important. So these are some tax regulations for you. So as an individual, as a UK resident or a UK citizen, you get a personal allowance every year. So that personal allowance is the amount you have to earn before you start paying taxes. So when you say, there's a myth around that says, oh, I'm a student, I don't pay taxes. No, whether you're even a newborn today, pay tax. So I've met people whereby a newborn, so they set up a pension scheme for their newborn baby, and they were just siphoning tax on the newborn baby's name. They were paying taxes because they just want to make sure they use the allowances within the family. So if I have a newborn and I say I'm paying my newborn 13 grand every year, that's me taking 13 grand from my business for my newborn, but my newborn of course can't spend it. So every individual in the UK is allowed that. Not a newborn, everything. So if you have 15 million jobs, no matter how much you earn, your first £12,000, 570, you don't pay tax on it. So that's another way you can use to structure your business in terms of drawing from your business. Okay, I'm having the CIC. Let me just, pay myself an average of about £1,000 every month to fully utilize my tax-free allowance. Why not? If the money is there, though. If the money is not there, then don't do it. You're just creating a negative account for yourself. So if the money is there, please fully utilize it. Tax is paid at different band rates. It's a general information. 20% for your first 50,250. That goes up to 150,000. You pay 40%, and anything over 150,000 pounds, you pay 45%.
So the key is you get taxed on your profit,
Of course,
not your income.
that's right.
So I know someone who earned 90 grand, he spent it all, and he only his profit, he's got nothing left every month, and that's what he gets taxed on. So for the business, he will buy this, he will buy that, he will do this, he'll use it for premises, he'll do this, and he'll literally do that, and then your profit is what you are taxed on. So he's taxed on probably 20 grand, but he earns about 90.
That's fine. So what we just said is in the structure of a limited company. So limited company, everybody, whether you are an individual or a limited company, you pay tax on your profit. You don't pay tax on a loss. You pay tax on your profit. So profit is money coming in, there's money going out. For an individual, you pay tax on your profit if you're self-employed. If you're a limited company, you also pay tax on your profit. So as a limited company, your profit would then include what you actually earn, plus your grants, which is taxable, less all your expenses, less all the machinery you talked about, less all the salary you paid your staff. Whatever the bottom line figure is what you pay tax on. So it's very important to fully utilize the income coming in. You get me? And also, if you're an individual, you do exactly the same. And at the end of the day, when you have your profit, your bottom figure, for a company, you pay tax on 19% if you are a company. But if I get a big fat job with a company down the road and I get a salary of 100 grand, I don't have that luxury of deducting my expenses because I'm an employee. So I get taxed using that rate, 20, 40, 45% rate for an individual, which could be sometimes very expensive, which is a disadvantage, another disadvantage of working as a self-employed. So you try to move your business because it's tax favorable into the umbrella, an umbrella of a limited company, whether it's a limited company by shares or a limited company by CIC. There's a flat rate, 19%, which is your bottom line number.
And you said even grants, you get taxed.
So grants are taxable.
Yeah.
They are taxable, does not necessarily mean you pay tax on them. So if you get a grant, you get a grant for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
So if you get a grant of, let's say, 1,000 or 10 grand, and you spend 5 grand, you have 5 grand left. If it's an unrestricted grant, you pay tax on that 5 grand.
So spend it.
You spend it. But if it's a restricted grant, right, you either pay back the grant to the donor, or you carry it forward to the next financial year, provided that is allowable, based on the agreement between you and your donor.
If you don't spend it, then they don't actually give you, and that's why the council see all these roadworks.
Yeah, at the end of financial year.
Around April, because they don't spend the money yet. And if they don't spend the money, they can't then ask them to spend money or more.
Right.
Because then they have to spend the money.
their budget, their enrichment for the.
It's really important. It's when you see that top of the half grand. You know, in your first few years, when you start, and you're starting from a purpose-driven process, right? Where you're trying to get the grants, you're trying to mobilize community towards your thing. You're not starting from a commercial way of an enterprise, right? That your business will have a direct impact on your personal life, and your personal life will have a direct impact on your business, right? It's really important on how you manage those two by remembering that these are two separate entities, okay? So for the example that you put is really an important one. Even if I payroll myself £100 a month, it is better than zero, okay? It is really better than zero because at the end of the year, I'm under that £12,000 income bracket. Plus, there's also other state support that I could access in the meantime whilst I'm growing my business. And your business can still have a £40,000 turnover whilst you are still on £100 salary because you are paying your staff. You're growing your business so that you can eventually completely be paid by your business and not be dependent on external support. Yeah.
The other thing. They pay themselves more, and that's when they get into trouble because they spent the grant money wrongly by paying themselves more and just not understanding it. Or they don't pay themselves. Or they don't pay themselves.
That's it. It's a huge important one. And of course, when you look at things around states, they look at how many hours you work, and things. So 16 hours is a general minimum. Freelancers, oh my goodness, you just make your life difficult if you do. In terms of just having that space to focus on your business and let the natural order of things work towards supporting you whilst you're focusing on your business. Those first few years, if you're not getting a loan and not doing anything, how you manage your personal and your business finances will become evident in the struggle that you have or in the successes of your business within those first few years. So really do balance those pretty well.
Very important slides. I got about 2 more. Because I really want everybody else to be disappearing. Yeah, I'm just gonna round up now. I really want, because at the same time, I want a few people haven't said a few words today, and I just want to ask questions. Just very, very quick advice. If you're making profits, as Cic said, I would also advise you to start putting some money aside, right? Because if you're a limited company or you're self-employed, your tax is not taxed at due time. So bear that in mind. You just talked about why does it take that long before we start reporting? So a lot of people, you report it 21 months after you've actually done the business. So try to put some money aside. You can just create a bank account on the side. Just put some money aside. Because when the taxman comes knocking, you have something to pay. Because you've already spent the money. Or the trading period is already done. Unlike somebody who's an employee of a company that gets taxed on a monthly basis, getting a pay slip. So that's very, very important. And also, another problem people do have is keeping records. Let's try to keep records. For those of you who are already set up your business, make sure you keep records. It's very, very important. You keep your records. For those of you about to go into business, keep your record, evidence of your purchases, evidence of your sales, what you actually buy, get a file and file them. Very, very important. And another problem people do have, which is what you're trying to say, is we don't understand our business income. We just start, we see, because you're making money, cash coming in, does not mean you're making profit. Because you just see the money coming into your bank account, but holy, have you looked at your expenses? So you really need to pay attention to that. And a lot of people just start and they start taking money out of the business. You really, really need to understand that. I mean, you have the allowance of about 36 months, first 3 years to make a loss if you're making a loss. However, you need to understand how much am I making, how much can I take out? So you really, really need to understand that. And the only way you can do that is to keep your record and keep your books. Inspect your books. Spend 30 minutes every month to look at business performance every month. And it's also very good from a finance point of view because if you want to get a bank loan, the bank will say to you, let's see some of your books. That's what we call a management account, which is not a full account. It's just what you've done so far. Very, very important. And finally, set a salary structure if you have the funds. And not only set a salary structure, stick to it. A lot of people set a salary structure, but they don't stick to it. They turn the business bank account to your personal bank account. Don't do it. You have created a lot of problems for yourself. I know it's very, very attractive and intimidating in terms of, oh, I got money in my business account. Why can't I spend it? The business belongs to me. No, the business belongs to the business. You want the business. So if you want 50 grand, then set up a salary scheme for yourself and stick to it. If you set up 12 grand, stick to it. Don't move the goalpost. And if you want more, then take it. But you need to stick to it. Do not turn the business bank account to your personal bank account. Very, very important. Because HMRC will come at any time and investigate your business, any business. And it's very, very important. And if you have any bank loan, make sure you keep up to date with your bank loan because you don't want to ruin your relationship and build it and burn any bridge with your bank. Any question from anybody?
Thank you.
I would say one thing about Oliver. I was really shocked because I went on your website. Yeah. Wow. What's his prices on the website? Accountant does something like that. It must be trusted, right?
You don't want to bring any shocker to anybody?
The second thing is when I saw the prices, I thought they're incredible value for money. And if I was your business advisor, I'd be probably telling you to kind of think about your prices. And one of the things we do when the advice today was really valuable and can save you a huge amount of money. And it can also save you a huge amount of time. So when you're weighing up that starting position as to what advice you pay for and what advice you kind of don't pay for, and what effort you put into doing certain things that may not be your key skill or your core skill, you've got to work it, you've got to think about the cost benefit of that. Absolutely. If you're a salesperson, you're better at this selling stuff and have a numbers person helping you. Or if you're spending hours doing your tax, you might be better off using your skills so you generate some money to employ some of these skills. So thank you.
Just to support what you just said, it's very, very important. I'm not trying to preach myself, but at the end of the day, you all are business people. The last thing you want to worry about is your books, paperwork. You really want to focus on your business. That's what you want to do. That's your passion. So I would definitely advise you, if you want to, make sure everything is right, get a professional, reach out to an accountant, got my business card, give me a call. My services span all across bookkeeping, managing account, tax return, free tax advice. I can support you, I can help you, I can come out to you, you can come to me, I'm local. You need any form of help. And I hope you lot have had some good stuff today. You've actually taken things away. I didn't hear anything from you. Have you got any questions? I didn't hear from you any specific questions. Okay. Did I answer most of the questions? You talk about real estate. There's a big opportunity for you in the UK. very important for you if you're going into real estate. One thing I didn't talk about because we're focusing on CICs and things is to make sure when you set up a company, make sure you use the SIC, right? SIC code, which is the code that depicts that your business is into real estate and buying and selling of properties, because if you want to get business finance and mortgage and funding, you look at that. And yes, when we go into the buy-to-let market, the opportunities are out there for you. Sure, by all means.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any question for any other person? Sure. The one before that. Any question from anybody?
Is it a good idea to set fire to your business if you've taken too much money and the HMRC are coming for you?
It's Argentina. You keep enough money for a plane to Argentina.
Yeah, I'll call the fireman for you. Yeah, fire. Just really call the fireman.
So my question is,
Sure.
you know, like, I've got a sole trader
Yeah.
and a CIC.
Yeah.
And the brain behind that was, or the brain behind that is that the sole trader can outsource, sorry, the CIC can outsource some services to the sole trader, or if that was a limited company. And I've seen a few other people who've done similar things. What is the possibility in terms of doing that? But also, what is the implication if, obviously, knowing that my business is not me, if it's a limited company or a CIC, is it possible for that business to outsource its services to a sole trader or a limited company that is owned by the same person?
There's nothing there's nothing stopping you, right? There's nothing stopping you. As long as the job is going to be done, there's nothing stopping you. There's no legislation that says you can't do it.
Okay.
Of course, there's what we call related party and transaction with directors. So that will be disclosed in the CIC account.
Right.
That in the year, X amount of money, it's not a conflict of interest, but we need to disclose that transaction because it's a related party transaction. Because in the year, especially when the bulk of the job was actually done by the sole trader, which is probably going to be yourself. So we need to really disclose that for the benefit of the community, that this type of transaction did happen in the year. But there's nothing stopping you from using that service, because if the CIC is a service that only you can offer, then why not? There's nothing stopping you, but just beware, that will be disclosed in the CIC account.
What if there were two, so a CIC and a limited company?
Yeah.
Kind of opened by the same person?
Yeah.
Would that still be the same route?
That would still be the same route, because you as a person, you are the nominal factor between both of them, or whoever the person is.
Yeah.
So we are actually going to disclose that related party transaction for the purpose of for the benefit of the public, to say in the year, let's say £5,000 worth of services was offered to the CIC by a company owned by the director. The transaction was actually held at arm's length, and there's no conflict of interest. So that would definitely be disclosed. But in terms of, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. You can do it. But of course, in terms of, regulations, and in terms of you being, true and fair with the business, you just need to make sure whatever services you're offering the CIC, the transaction is at market rate.
Yeah. Right?
And you want to be seen as just using the CIC to just, move funds out of it. So it needs to be a market rate. So if you're offering a freelance services, compare what the other competitors are offering the market and charge the right amount. But yes, you can offer your CIC, you can offer services to your CIC.
All right, good people.
Yeah.
Any more for anyone?
No, thank you, bro. That's very good.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Steve.
You're based in Bristol.
I am based in Bristol, probably less than 5 miles away from here.
So if you've always got a CIC,
Yeah.
so this is the thing I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
So we've got the CIC. So obviously we've got some funding with that kind of stuff. At the moment, it's running out of luck. you do have another business idea.
She went.
And you want to open that one up as maybe a social enterprise rather than you still want to have access to it.
That will be a CICP.
There will be a social enterprise.
So what structure are you looking at? Or is it social enterprise? What structure?
Isn't a social enterprise when you have to pay a certain amount of money back into the community after you make profit? Or am I?
So what's going to be your structure? That's very important. Social enterprise is an umbrella for any enterprise that is designed socially for the community. So what's going to be your structure? You want to go in as a charity? You want to go in as a charitable company? You want to go in as a CIO or charitable organization? Or do you want to go in as a CIC? What social enterprise?
Seriously, my little brain is just like, it's shut down.
If you want to set up, how do you want to set up? How do you want to
It
scale?
would either be a CIO
A CIO.
or
That's not a company. A CIO is not a company. It's a incorporated organization, a charity. And that's it, of course, compliance wise, all tax.
if we have
Or one to one.
so if we have another CIC, can you put another CIC underneath it?
No.
Under,
No.
even if that CIC is a social enterprise?
No, they can be related based on the directors,
Yeah.
but it can be a subsidiary of the other or an associate of the other. They are two separate.
So how do we make that happen then, to make companies associations of each other?
And they're offering services, so you can have a, I mean, the most important thing is why do you want to make it associated? Is it about moving funds around? Is it about offering services? You can have a CIC, I have my own CIC, I can offer services to your CIC, and you pay me, and you do the same, and I pay you. So we can do that.
So one personal curriculum is a spin-off from it's a parts. One personal curriculum.
Yeah.
It's its own company to be a charity, but it's a spin-off. So the small project that's now built big, it needs its own money, is now separate. Yeah. But cognitive part delivers its marketing, it's happening in everything else. So cognitive part builds it to pay for the stuff to operate it until it's got its own stuff, its own money to run for it. Yeah. Is there a conflict of interest? I'm a director and both. Oh, I've got no conflict of interest. I'm giving birth to this thing. Who the hell's going to feed it?
So the conflict of interest, when you talk about conflict of interest, is very, very broad. You actually see what am I actually doing? If what you're doing is a arm's length, Cic just explained. So there's no conflict of interest. Arm's length. When I mean arm's length, in the sense that arm's length.
My hearing aids is there. That's why I didn't even tell everyone.
So arm's length in the sense that you're doing it by, there's no hide and seek, and if it's going to cost, for example, like two different CICs, and I'm doing your marketing for
The
you.
next 3 Thursdays, I've got parent evenings.
I'm doing your marketing. And the service I offer,
Yeah.
normally, £5 a month, but you're paying